LNK, Red Skelton made America laugh, but no one knew what he was hiding for more than 2 decades. Millions of Americans gathered around their television sets, week after week, to watch a man who could make them laugh without saying a single word. He was the silly drunk, the mischievous kid, the hobo clown with a twinkle in his eye, to the world. Red Skelton was pure joy, the embodiment of clean, family-friendly comedy. But behind the painted smile was a man haunted by poverty, heartbreak, betrayal, and loss. This is the untold story of Red Skelton, America's clown who discovered that laughter could never erase his pain. Born on July 18, 1913, in Vincennes, Indiana, Red's life began under tragedy. Just 2 months before his birth, his father Joseph, a circus clown turned grocer, was killed in a tent collapse, leaving his pregnant wife Ida Mae with 4 children to raise alone. Ida struggled with poverty, working any job she could find. The Skeltons weren't just poor, they were pitied, and Red grew up feeling the weight of that stigma. At 7, he sold newspapers on street corners to help his family survive. Even then, he noticed something. If he made people laugh, they bought more papers. Humor, he realized, could be survival. At 10, fate changed his path. Legendary comedian Ed Wynn bought his papers and invited him backstage at the Pantheon Theater. The magic of show business left an impression that would shape his destiny. Red left school, joined medicine shows and traveling troupes, and learned the craft of timing and physical comedy. By 14, he was performing on riverboats, sharpening instincts that would eventually turn a poor boy into an American legend. In Kansas City, 1930, Red met a 16-year-old usher named Edna Stillwell. She wasn't impressed by his act. In fact, she told him his jokes weren't good enough. That honesty struck him. Within a year, they were married, and Edna became much more than a wife. She was his writer, manager, and partner in every sense. It was Edna who helped him polish his act, negotiate better pay, and even earn his high school diploma. Their creative breakthrough came in the unlikeliest of places, a diner in Montreal. Watching people dip donuts into coffee, they developed a silent pantomime sketch called Donut Dunkers. Red acted out different, exaggerated ways people might dunk their donuts, from dainty sips to full-on disasters. It was absurd, but audiences roared. That sketch launched him into the big leagues, eventually landing him at New York's Loew's State Theater in 1937. The Donut Dunkers routine carried him to radio, film, and even the White House. Franklin Roosevelt invited him to perform, and soon Skelton was hosting presidential birthday celebrations. The boy who once couldn't afford shoes was now entertaining America's most powerful man. In 1937, Red performed his donut routine on Rudy Vallee's popular radio show. The audience loved it, and NBC quickly gave him a spot as host of Avalon Time. By 1941, he had his own hit program, The Raleigh Cigarette Show, where he introduced characters that became household names. Red Skelton's character Junior, the mean little kid, made "I Doed It" a national catchphrase, even inspiring a WWI bomber's name. Drafted in 1944, he performed tirelessly for troops until collapsing from exhaustion, returning scarred. He still triumphed on TV in 1951, where his expressive comedy captivated millions. Junior, the mean little kid, was so popular that children across America shouted his catchphrase, "I Doed It." The character even inspired the naming of a World War II bomber plane, "We Doed It." Another creation, Clemke Diddlehopper, was based on a real neighbor from Indiana. But just as his career peaked, the draft notice arrived. In 1944, Skelton entered the U.S. Army, despite desperate attempts by MGM and his sponsors to keep him out. Unlike some celebrities who were given cushy assignments, Red trained like any soldier and performed constantly for the troops. At one point, he did 41 shows in 6 days. The pressure broke him. Exhausted, he collapsed in Naples, Italy, and was hospitalized for months. When he returned home in 1945, he had developed a stutter and never fully regained his old rhythm. The experience left a permanent scar, one that colored both his comedy and his personal life. When television exploded in the 1950s, Red Skelton was ready. His first show premiered on NBC in 1951, and it was an instant sensation. Viewers who had known him from radio were thrilled to finally see his expressive face and physical comedy. His most beloved creation emerged in 1952, Freddie the Freeloader, a gentle, wordless tramp who lived in poverty but radiated joy. Inspired by memories of his father, Freddie was a clown for the television age, funny, yes, but also deeply human. Through Freddie, Skelton reminded audiences that laughter and kindness could survive, even in hardship. For nearly 20 years, The Red Skelton Show ruled Tuesday nights, winning Emmys and becoming one of the longest-running comedy programs in American history. Skelton even financed early color broadcasts himself, years before CBS adopted the technology. But in 1970, despite strong ratings, CBS canceled the show in the infamous rural purge, choosing younger, edgier programming. Heartbroken, Red said, "My heart has been broken." Though beloved for his wholesome comedy, backstage he often released darker humor in what crews called the Red Skelton Dirty Hour. Privately, he carried immense pain. In 1958, his son Richard died of leukemia at just 9 days before his birthday. Red never recovered, his marriage collapsed, and years later his ex-wife Georgia died by suicide on the anniversary of their son's death. Hollywood's rejection cut so deeply that Red once ordered all his recordings destroyed in his will before later reversing the decision. Instead, he reinvented himself as a painter, creating clown portraits that sold for millions. Collectors loved them, but friends saw them as mirrors of his grief, clowns laughing through tears. In later years, Red remarried, performed live shows, and found comfort with his third wife. But he never fully healed from his losses. Red Skelton passed away on September 17, 1997. At the age of 84, his death was attributed to pneumonia, but in truth, much of his life had been a slow surrender to grief. Today, his legacy lives on not only through his show, but through the museum in his hometown of Vincennes, Indiana, which preserves his costumes, scripts, paintings, and characters. Comedians from Robin Williams to Jim Carrey have cited him as an influence. Freddie the Freeloader, Clem Diddlehopper, Jr., they all endure as proof that clean comedy can be timeless. Red Skelton was more than a comedian. He was a man who taught America how to laugh, even while privately carrying unbearable sorrow. His life reminds us of a truth that applies to so many great clowns. From Chaplin to Robin Williams, the biggest laughs often come from the deepest pain. To his audiences, Red Skelton was joy. To himself, he was a man forever searching for it.